All right, welcome back to another episode of Teacher Nerds Podcast. I'm Ron Nober.
I'm Joe DiPaolo.
I'm a technology teacher, 3rd grade to 8th grade.
And I teach 3rd grade.
All right, and we are lucky to have a guest today. We have Kyle Niemis. He is an ed tech coach from South Brunswick. Welcome, Kyle.
Good morning.
Hey, morning. Thanks for having me.
Definitely.
Yeah, really appreciate you waking up early with us and getting on the show here. It's 7 a.m. We're starting. So
Right, before class, right? Before classes start. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so Kyle is going to talk with us a little bit about UDL, Universal Design for Learning. But before we get into that, we always start our show with a little 2 yes more, 1 no way. And Joe, surprisingly, it's food today.
Ron, you know, another tough topic too, desserts.
Desserts.
Having that sweet tooth, man, I got to lock down. It's going to be hard to narrow.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start our 2 yes more, 1 no way.
It's time for 2 yes more, 1 no way.
All right, so Kyle, since you are a guest, would you want to start with your 2 yes mores, 1 no way?
Sure. Yeah, you're right. This was super hard to come up with, especially with the season of all these delicious desserts.
Yep.
So 2 desserts that I love very much. You know, the old school apple pie. You can't beat that for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And then this one, I always get made fun of for this, but I'm sticking strong to it. The Orange Julius from Dairy Queen. Do you ever have Orange
Oh,
Julius?
wow.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, the amount of times I've get made fun of for ordering an Orange Julius, is too many. But that's one of my favorites.
Are there Dairy Queens around you?
No, not too many,
Okay.
but that's what makes it so much better when you see one.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, I can't even think of one around
There's
here.
one in Browns Mills by Deborah Hospital.
I don't think anymore.
No, there's a beat up shopping center with nothing but I think a pizza place and a Dairy Queen, and that's it.
Yeah,
It used to be. I don't know.
That's hard.
All right, so Joe, you wanna
Well,
go next?
did you do your no
Oh,
way?
I'm sorry, your no way. Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, so my no way, I also catch a lot of slack for is pecan pie. I think is one of the grossest desserts of all time, and it's people like favorites.
Agreed.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
All right, so, you know, I came, Kyle, from a family where we cooked all the time. Well, I should say my aunts, my grandmothers. So this was hard because also working in a restaurant, I classify now 2 types of desserts. Desserts that my family've made, and then desserts that you get in restaurants. But I'm going to stick homemade because the one is my favorite from my grandmother, who's no longer around anymore. And my girlfriend has tried to replicate this recipe and has never really come close. Cherry cheese tarts.
Ooh,
And they're individual little just cheesecakes with cherries on top. And I don't know what she did. It's Philadelphia cream cheese. So maybe hailing from Philadelphia, that's a good start.
Right.
Delicious. So my second would have to be another homemade. My mom makes a really, really good, and I'll never tell her this, yellow cake. And she makes a homemade buttercream icing. It's delicious. The reason I'll never tell her it's delicious because my favorite icing is chocolate.
Right.
But she'll never fold because she can't make a homemade chocolate icing. But the buttercream is, I mean, it's delicious, hands down. And my one no way man is also pecan pie. And,
All right.
And for years at this restaurant, that was everyone's go-to, and they loved it. And
Oh, man.
I can't dig
No.
on those pecans. And
Me neither.
No thanks.
All right, I'm out of the club.
Yo.
All right, so my 2 yes mores, one has to be just a straight up chocolate cake, chocolate icing, just, you know, like birthday cake
Yeah,
cake,
yeah.
you know, has to be one. And my second kind of goes grandma.
Yeah.
My dad's mom, she was a baker and loved to make food, and so when we would have dinner at her house, she would make me my very own lemon meringue pie.
Oh, man.
So it would be just for me.
A whole pie.
A whole pie, right?
Lemon meringue, is that like pudding?
It's like a creamy lemon curd, I guess, and
Okay.
then like a whipped topping on top.
Okay.
You know, and I think more just the memories of like going to her house,
Yep.
and she would make each person in our family, like whatever your favorite dessert was, she would make you your own.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so you could take some home. And my one no way, man, it has to be like a tapioca pudding or a rice pudding.
Oh, see, I like rice pudding.
Yeah, I can't deal. It's too chunky and lumpy and just not cool. Yeah.
Hey,
so
you know what? That's why
Vanilla chocolate strawberry, right?
Cool.
All right. So let's get into UDL, Universal Design for Learning. Kyle, you had contacted me on Twitter and, kind of opened our eyes to UDL. I mean, it's not something that we were real familiar with. Actually, in starting to look at it, we actually have a PLC group with another coworker, and we switched our topic to looking at UDL and how to kind of bring it into the classrooms more here.
That's great.
Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit, at base level, what is UDL?
Sure. So I can tell you that, so UDL for me is just, I guess I'd tell you, I always like to go with the why, right? I love it so much because it really helps get to the kids, I always say, in the margins. A lot of times with planning a lesson day after day after day, it can be really hard to kind of hit up some of those kids who want to go faster or slower. So the main idea of it is that you can really kind of meet the needs of some of those kids that maybe you haven't been able to get to. So if it's okay with you guys, actually, I'd love to start off with kind of like a little activity. I've done lots and lots of workshops on this, but then you guys be my little participants for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, cool.
So I do a lot of analogies to kind of help explain what UDL is before I get into like the details of it. So here's what I got. Ready? So imagine that you guys are planning like a barbecue, for the neighborhood or whatever it is, the normal hot dogs, hamburgers, potato salad, whatever it is. So you can think of the things that you'd bring to your barbecue to ultimately, of course, having really awesome barbecue. But that Bob down the street really, really loves like spicy stuff. Like that's like his jam.
Right.
Whereas his wife, Linda, she's got a gluten allergy.
Oh.
Okay. So just a couple little things about the people who are coming to your barbecue. And I'm sure you have other stuff too, but just to pick two to keep it simple. So if you were planning your barbecue, so Ron, if I'm going to ask you, what would you make sure you have at your barbecue besides the normal hot dogs, hamburgers, potato salad, knowing that you got spicy guy and gluten allergy, Linda?
All right, so I'd probably look for spicy guy. I'd have some maybe like grilled maybe chorizo, something, some kind of sausage that's spicy. And then, for Linda, I don't know much about gluten allergies, but I'd be definitely going to the grocery store to that gluten-free section and looking for some kind of burgers. I know there is an app on the phone where you can scan to make sure nothing has gluten in it. So I'd be pulling for her. Maybe, my guess is, and I'm probably right on with this, but like shrimp, things like that do not have gluten.
Okay.
Right? So I would probably have maybe some kind of grilled shrimp for her.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. So if I can roll with that, if you don't mind, it's kind of like, so basically you plan out your barbecue and you're like, hey, I got spicy, so let me get a couple spicy things and let me also make sure I have some shrimp for some, people with gluten allergies. Ultimately, then the barbecue comes and Linda's really happy and Bob's really happy, but there's a good chance that someone else is probably going to have that chorizo too, right? Because even though like maybe they're not the spicy fan, they love chorizo, or someone else really loves shrimp. So this to me is kind of like the big idea of UDL is you think who's coming to your classroom every day, think of the barriers or the needs that they have, and then you kind of put out some options that maybe would fit their needs. So that's like kind of UDL in a nutshell. But what makes it so magical and so great is that you would never have Linda come to your barbecue and you'd be like, hey, Linda, listen, I got you shrimp. It's gluten-free. You got to eat shrimp. And no one else besides Linda is allowed to eat shrimp. You know what I mean? Like you,
right.
And so that sounds kind of ridiculous, but in some ways, actually, that's kind of what makes UDL different than differentiation, is that a lot of times in differentiation, the teacher decides this is what's going to this person, this is what's going to this person, this is what's going to this person. And so the big idea of UDL and differentiation is very much the same. You still want to meet all the needs of your kids. But the difference is you kind of just, it's more of you put out options, really well thought out options, and then knowing that they'll need it, but other people can also take advantage of it. So cool. That's kind of like the summary of kind of what UDL is with the food analogy.
All right,
okay.
Cool. And that's, obviously, we did some research, Joe and I read some stuff, and one of the articles I read, they were talking about like closed captioning, right? It's for people who are hearing impaired, but there are times where I'm watching a movie and, for whatever, the sound quality is not great. I'll throw on the closed captioning. It's not something that I need because of a disability or anything, but it's there and I take advantage.
Exactly.
So it's the same kind of idea.
And that's what it is. And so I don't know if you saw this in your research too. So the whole idea of UDL actually started from architecture. We kind of stole it from architecture. Basically, the idea was like if you're designing a building, you think of all the people, like if you're designing a hotel, you think of all the people who be coming into your hotel, and you'd make sure you put things in place. So for example, you might put a handicap ramp because there might be people who aren't able to take the stairs.
Right.
But then like if you look out the window, you'll see kids running up the ramp and other people using the ramp. So it's kind of the whole idea is you put things in place to help people with specific needs, but then it's good for one is kind of sometimes good for all.
Right. That's cool.
It sounds like reverse design thinking, maybe, like or not necessarily reverse design thinking.
Yeah, I mean, almost goes along with design thinking, empathizing with someone and, seeing what's there.
What they need and then providing things for them. I just wrote down it's like a buffet for learning. If we're going to, being some gluttons over here, relating everything to food.
No, I always use the buffet model, and I don't know if you know Katie Novak. She's a really awesome UDL person. She's on Twitter and everything, and she does a whole video about how basically differentiation is making a different meal for every one of your kids, which is insane, and UDL is more a well thought out buffet.
Cool. It's a I like that because, like you said, I mean, why not? If I'm going to provide a video for one student, why shouldn't somebody else be able to take advantage of that? You maybe use part of that, but also then use their textbook as well if they choose to.
That's right. So
it's one of those things that just makes sense.
It does
but you just don't think about it necessarily.
But it could also be overwhelming because like I've done a lot of workshops, and then so a lot of times the buy-in is pretty quick and you can easily see the benefits for kids. But then it's like you have to give a lesson day after day, and does that mean every day you have to give all these choices? And that can be so ridiculously overwhelming. So and so what I always tell every teacher is that like it doesn't need to be this whole big buffet. So like on like a simple example, let's just say you're giving a lecture or whatever it is, and the kids are taking notes, right?
Yep.
And you know that some kids just really need some sort of visual help when they're taking notes. So like you put out some highlighters on the table and say, hey guys, so like if you need them, there's some highlighters here to help you. It's supposed to help some people, help you remember some key terms. Like that's UDL. Like in its simplest form, like you said, I'm going to give some notes, and if you want some highlighters, there's some highlighters there. You know what I mean? Like, or I have a graphic organizer if you want to use it to help you organize your ideas. It's just the forethought to put out some really simple ideas that's going to help people, but it doesn't need to be this gigantic buffet of options.
Okay, and that I think was when I had looked at your YouTube channel, and you have all the videos.
Right.
I'm like, holy smokes, man! This dude must have spent like 2 years videotaping every lesson and putting together videos. You let somebody see that thinking of UDL, and they're going to, like you said, be overwhelmed and just be like, I don't have the time to do that. And I guess it can go little by little, right? You do one lesson, and then next time maybe you film 2 lessons, or you do something like that.
It is. It's very gradual, and to whatever comfort level you're at and to whatever you feel works for your kids. Like I happen to go big with it because I really love to give lots of kids choices. So I would never give my workshop about what my class looks like as the very first thing, because I do have a lot of options. But that was like over the course of like 7 years to get to that point. You know what I mean? Like very slow and small.
So if so the highlighter was one, kind of very simple thing and a graphic organizer. If you had somebody, wanting to jump in, like, because I'm looking at them, it's just making sense to me, and I want to jump in. What would be some other like simple ideas as to how do we, get started very easily with this?
Sure. So I can give you a couple examples, but I think we were saying it's really more of like just changing the mentality.
Right.
So I'm going to give an example that is just to me one of my favorites. Like I love to play review games all the time. Like I love to play and make class fun. And so I think a statement that always like kind of gets to me and hurts me a little bit is when like you hear a teacher say like, oh, all kids love to play games or all kids love to whatever. And so I think the whole point of UDL is not everyone loves everything. So so a really kind of quick example, like let's say Quizlet Live. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Quizlet Live, but so like for the most part, most kids really like it and they dig it. You know what I mean? But for some kids, it actually makes them more anxious, and it's not an enjoyable experience for them. So like something as simple as, hey guys, we're gonna play Quizlet Live today, but because the goal, you have to think with the goal. The goal is I want to help you review for tomorrow's test. So we're gonna play Quizlet Live, but if you don't want to, you can just study from your notebook for 10 minutes or grab a partner and quiz each other. And so something as simple as just letting kids have the option to not play a game or like, because the goal is the same. You want kids to learn. And I think, so really it depends. If you're a really controlling teacher, it's really hard to have kids doing different things, because you're like, a lot of people are like, no, I'll play the game. Like, come on, we're all going to play. It's going to be fun. But like, that kid is like, this is not going to be fun for me. This is going to be a nightmare. I'm an introvert and this is not my jam.
Right.
So just that mentality of like, okay, what's the big goal? So sure, if you want to study for your notebook or whatever it is, that's totally fine too. So something simple as like, just like not making a kid play a review game is one. Giving kids options for projects, which a lot of people will do. You know what I mean? Like if you're researching something, it is like letting kids pick something that interests them, or even the avenue if they want to make a video versus a PowerPoint or something like that. But that gets bigger, and that's where people start to feel overwhelmed, because then it's like, oh my gosh, like multiple projects and multiple rubrics and yada yada. But that's just anywhere you can find an opportunity to think, okay, what's the main point of a lesson? What are some choices? So options for projects, putting out a graphic organizer, or even like if you're sending kids something on Google Classroom, like a Google Doc of an assignment, there's a lot of times that we assume that kids have all the same background knowledge, and most of them maybe do have the background knowledge they need. But if there's a couple, let's say, key vocab words, again, that you think like, I bet you there might be a couple kids who don't know what this is, even hyperlinking that word to a definition. Right. You know what I mean? So most of the kids will use that Google Doc and they'll read and they'll skip right over that hyperlink. But there'll be some kids who will be like, let me just make sure I know what this word means. And they'll click it. And so same thing, like it's just little mini pieces you can just kind of put in place, or having a dictionary on the table if you really want to. You know what I mean? Just little things like that.
Cool. Yeah. So it can, and that's the thing I think that's important. It can be simple, and it may be things that you're already doing, that a lot of teachers are already doing, that you just don't even realize fall under the umbrella of UDL. That's right.
And so...
Well, the more I looked into it, the way we run our Spark program, our Genius Hour, is UDL. It's definitely UDL. So then my brain started going like, how can I bring it into language arts? How can I bring it into math? Because we do differentiate in language arts, but it's not UDL. So, and even though they do have the choice of the activities they can use, there's only one choice on the buffet line. There's a social studies activity, there's a language arts activity, and there's a free choice, and then there's a work with the teacher. But they, through the week they get through them all. So now my idea is going like, I like what you said with the hyperlinks and the docs and whatnot, because we have an ELL student. So not only would that really help him, but maybe there's someone else that might not know the idiom or whatever that's in the reading. So, and it's just it's just I guess talking about it and having those ideas and then discussing those ideas and sharing those ideas.
Well, and I think you Joe, you also do a little bit of this because you have books that you record your read aloud. If you had the recorded read aloud, but then you actually had the book out, and somebody could pick up the book and read it if they want to, or follow along with the read aloud, or somebody could just listen to it. Right. That's also a way to just bring this in.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal example of UDL.
Well, with WeVideo, like, I love the kids using WeVideo and the ideas for the projects and everything. But I'm not doing lessons on WeVideo just because it doesn't fall under my curriculum. So then you use WeVideo to do the screencasts, put the screencasts. I mean, and that just happened this year, right? Which was great because now the kids are becoming the experts, and some kids are fine with going and playing and figuring it out on their own, but some kids they get frustrated, and the videos are just so much more helpful. When we go to presentations at a local school district, and the presenters always seem to be taped with like maybe a swivel. There's a I don't know if that was an idea like I started to think about, and maybe not even recording everything on the lessons, but just for like math, like the think alouds in the beginning of the lesson that talk about the strategies. Is that's doable, right? And
yeah. I mean, you could really even open up your Chromebook, put it to the back of the classroom, and record, right? And I mean, and then have that in Google Classroom that a kid could go back and review, right? Or say, oh, I don't remember that strategy. They could go there, or they could go to their textbook and look at it. You could have a link to Khan Academy.
Well, and that's another thing
to do it, right? Like,
if I can't just generate a whole bunch of videos, having links to Khan, or good sources like Khan Academy and
and there are a lot of videos out there. I mean, it's going to take you a little bit of time to do some research, but again, it's not having to create it from scratch necessarily. There are people out there who've already created videos on.
Well, I was just
strategies.
thinking for my science program, I'm going to look more into your YouTube videos. I'm third grade, but I'm sure there's things, even that would stretch my kids' learning. So if they're interested in something, to have that choice to go and maybe look at something a little bit higher.
Well, and I guess that's a point of UDL too, right? Like being able to have those kids who are, like you said, on the fringe. I think a lot of times teachers think of the fringe as our lower level learners, but it's also those high end students who maybe you need to expand their learning a little bit.
Yeah, and so if I can kind of talk about the video just for a second, because I did record a lot of my lessons. That was my main drive for making the videos. It was actually the kids who were bored.
Right.
To me, there was nothing worse when I would be up there teaching about the digestive system, and I would know that like 4 kids in the class know most of this stuff already, and like they are bored beyond belief. Like that would hurt my soul so much.
Right.
So like we talked about, I videotaped so many of my lessons that they would watch in class, and it was just so wonderful because like they would be done in 5 minutes as opposed to me doing a 20-minute lecture, but then it presents a new, I'm going to call it opportunity, challenge, because then you're like, the kids are done. And that's a scary thing too. When you have like 4 kids who are like, oh, I'm done. And like, so, but then once you work out your kinks and you figure out what works for you, then all of a sudden you have opportunities for them to go and learn deeper or help peers or whatever it ends up being. But like those are the kids I think in particular that thrive on a UDL environment because they're not really being pushed to their limits.
Right. One thing I was thinking about too, when you were talking about the, people feeling the stress of it, talking about having different projects and, thinking to themselves, like I want the kids to create a brochure, a Google, give them the choice brochure, Google Slides, video, whatever it is, and thinking you need a rubric for each one. You really don't. I mean, because what you're assessing is realistically the same for everybody. So you don't have to do a separate, rubric for video taking into account, well, did you have transitions? And because that's not what you're assessing. You're assessing the content that you taught. So you could have one rubric to assess all those different projects. That's so you don't have to go beyond that. One rubric, did you use the vocabulary? Did you use it correctly? Did you present concepts? Did you go above and present something that we didn't talk about in class or whatever the case may be? And that's your rubric.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
I think it almost forces you as a teacher to make sure you focus on only what's important.
Right. Yeah. So, and which is actually really helpful. I mean, because that's what your whole idea is these are the things that I want to assess. And it makes you kind of focus there. Yeah. So that's,
and do you find, do you have students that still maybe want to take a test or find it a little less stressful to try and do that the types of projects, and would just rather take, a 10-question quiz on something?
So I will tell you, there's certain things, like I still gave every kid a test, and so certain things that I wouldn't give options on. So like to me, everyone's taking a test for sure, but like if I was doing a current events project, they got to choose the topic they wanted to research and how they wanted to show it, then I'd have a lot of flexibility with it. So I think that's important to say too, is if there's certain things you don't want to give choice to, like you don't have to, Like if there's certain like non-negotiables, like I'm sorry, we're all taking this test, or we're all going to give a presentation, or we're all going to like, that's fine. But it's almost like when you have those non-negotiables, is there anything within them you could maybe give a choice about, or give some sort of whatever it is. So I feel like I didn't completely answer your question there, but I think that.
Well, I think when so that that the fact that you'll still give a test, so then there is some valor then in taking those types of assessments, because I guess they're going to take them in high school and there's test taking skills, it's.
But I mean, it's also throughout the lesson, as you're doing little assessments here and there may be some choice, or how you study for the test, there may be some choice. That's the whole idea. We may all still take the test.
Well, even like I run an inclusion classroom, so the way a student with an IEP is going to take a test is definitely a little different. But so there's a lot going on. There's a lot, maybe running an inclusion classroom or just running a choice classroom, and a passion-led classroom. It seems like a lot of these ideas are flowing around. And I have them all in separate pieces. I just want to try and, I'm glad you reached out to us because we've been using the Classroom Q, and now it got me even deeper into the UDL.
Oh, and I guess we should mention that, you're co-inventor of Classroom Q.
So Classroom Q, a teacher and I, we made this tool. It's just because my classroom became very UDL oriented, where kids are kind of working and I'm walking around helping kids all the time. It became challenging because hands were up all the time. Even, you can still do Ask 3 than me or all the systems you want. Inevitably, you still need to help kids. So it's just a digital deli ticket kind of system. So kids are able to easily just let you know they need help, and then they can get back to work without sitting there with their hands up.
Right.
So it's really super simple. Made by two teachers.
Awesome tool in the classroom.
Yeah.
Quick plug. Yeah, it's killer. But yeah, so so let's get back to the UDL, I guess. Yeah.
So if I can give anyone who's thinking about there and hopefully ramped up right now and excited to try it, I want to tell you the mistake I made to hopefully help everyone out there who maybe will make the same mistake. It's so the mistake I made, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can give so many awesome choices. This is going to be amazing. So like when learning digestive system, I'm like, you can watch this video or this video or this video. You can do this and this. So I give kids choice overload. Like I was so excited to give them choices, and it was such a disaster. Like there was choice paralysis. Like it was like, there's like 10 options to learn one thing. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to learn this. So I had to really go back to the principle of UDL, which is like, what is the goal? What is the barrier that's going to run into? So if the barrier is some kids want a video, then I'll just give them one video that's a really good video. And if some kids really like to read, I'll find one really great article. So it has to be very thought out options based on the barriers of your class, not just like, let's go choice happy and give 8 video making options, because that defeats the purpose. Like, you need to be able to answer the question of why am I giving them a video option, a reading option, whatever it is. So it has to directly correlate to the goal of your lesson and the barriers they're going to face for it to make sense. So don't go making choice overload, because it'll be a disaster like I had.
Right. So you get that, what is it, paralysis by analysis kind of thing, right? They don't even know where to start.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because that was my first thing, is like, ooh, how many choices can I give? But realistically, you might want to narrow it down to less than 5. Choices. And I like the idea, like you said, think about what the barriers the kids are going to have, and they're the choices that you set up.
Right. Very well thought out choices, not just going choice happy.
Yeah. All right. So we do want to reach out. We're going to have you back for another, podcast episode, just kind of maybe about some of the tools that are out there that you've used for UDL, and, what you think would be best for someone starting out, or maybe going to that, next level. They tried basic things and want to go to a next level, and some of the tools that you would recommend.
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
So, I'll reach out to you soon, and, it'll be after the first of the year, probably we'll do that.
Cool.
So where can people, if people want to find you, social media, things like that, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Kyle Niemis, KyleNiemis. I'm on there a bunch, trying to find some good ideas and tell the world about them. But it's the best spot.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate you, waking up early and joining us here in,
thanks.
And New Jersey strong, everybody here, Jersey. All right, so thanks again. We hope you have a great rest of your day, Kyle.
No, that was great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, really appreciate it. All right.
See you, man.
Bye-bye. All right, so Joe, that's
a lot, Ron.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Awesome ideas. I mean,
I can see now, after talking to him, where the idea of the Classroom Q came from, or where that need came from.
Yeah, and I think, it was also because, like I said it before, my wife says I'm a t-shirt buyer. I got to be all in, right? So all in doesn't have to be crazy. Right. Little basic steps, the highlighters, just like that. Him saying, put a highlighter out, put a graphic organizer out. If you want to use it, use it. If not, that's fine. Given a little choice at the end of a lesson, do you want to extend your learning? If you finished, here's a way to do that.
Right.
Thought it was awesome. So that ends our episode. Once again, I'm Ron Nober.
I'm Joe DiPaolo.
Check us out on teachernerds.com, at teachernerds on Twitter, and Joe on Instagram.
Teacher Nerds Podcast.
All right. And Joe, that is nerds with a
Z, Ron.
Z. Thank you very much.
Bless you.
check out the Teacher Nerds store on teachernerds.com where get some cool Teacher Nerds gear. We have our Be Weird Like Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers.
Still going on, Ron?
Yep, still have it up there.
Cool.
Some cool T-shirts up there, sweatshirts. I'm wearing my Be Cool Like Fred or Be Weird Like Fred T-shirt underneath my Teacher Nerds sweatshirt.
You're the man.
I'm all Teacher Nerded out today. Thanks again for joining us, and look for us on another episode. Bye.
Teacher nerds knocking on your door. Open up, let's take your teaching further than before. Give it a try, don't be shy, there's nothing there to lose. Worst thing that happens, kids get pain on their shoes. We're talking teacher nerds, I'm talking teacher nerds.